And over time, I noticed a parallel between the roles I would play as a man, both on screen and off.
It started like any ordinary day, but the moment I got a call from my manager with both of them on the line, I knew it was serious. In situations like that, it usually means one of two things. Either you've landed the opportunity of a lifetime, or something unexpected has gone very wrong. At home, life carried its own small complexities. My oldest daughter completely adored the baby, while my middle child wasn't quite as enthusiastic. Still, despite the nerves and uncertainty, I felt deeply honored, because what we were about to discuss was meaningful, important, and worthy of anticipation. Hello, this is PopStream. For years, Ryan Reynolds has thrived in the public eye, winning hearts with his quick wit, sharp humor, and effortless charm, making him one of Hollywood's most beloved stars. But now, in a shocking twist that has sent shockwaves through both Tinseltown and his loyal fanbase, Reynolds finds himself in an unimaginable position, testifying in court against his own wife, Blake Lively. Once celebrated as one of Hollywood's golden couples, Reynolds and Lively are now engulfed in a full-blown legal firestorm over the highly anticipated film adaptation of It Ends With Us. What began as a seemingly routine creative disagreement between Lively and director Justin Baldoni quickly spiraled into a courtroom battle filled with conflicting accounts, explosive legal threats, and revelations that could upend careers. Initially, Lively and Baldoni set out to collaborate, eager to bring Colleen Hoover's best-selling novel to life. But their visions clashed almost immediately. Lively pushed for a modern, stylish approach, blending comedy with high-fashion aesthetics, while Baldoni insisted on a raw, emotionally grounded take that honored the novel's heavier themes. At first, those close to the production dismissed it as ordinary creative friction, standard in any major film. But as filming progressed, tensions spilled into the public sphere. Lively escalated matters by accusing Baldoni of completely ignoring her input, painting him as a director more interested in cheap laughs and glossy visuals than the story's emotional core. She took formal legal action, alleging that Baldoni repeatedly dismissed her concerns and refused to direct the film in the serious tone she had envisioned. The public initially rallied behind Lively, trusting her reputation for professionalism and artistic integrity. Baldoni, known for his emotionally resonant storytelling, defended his choices, but headlines remained dominated by Lively's lawsuit until he countered with a defamation suit. Baldoni claimed that parts of her story were not only exaggerated but possibly fabricated. The case became even more explosive when he presented what he described as indisputable evidence contradicting Lively's account: emails, text messages, production logs, and documents that didn't align. He even hinted that someone, perhaps Lively or her representatives, may have tampered with records to bolster her claims, a serious accusation that could severely damage credibility. Lively's legal team dismissed Baldoni's claims as distractions, insisting any inconsistencies were minor technical glitches. But the tension intensified when digital forensic analysts working for Baldoni discovered undeniable anomalies. Some messages attributed to Lively appeared to have been altered or created after the fact. Even more alarming, certain messages referenced events that had not yet occurred according to the official production schedule. Suddenly, what had started as a dispute over creative direction now included hard technical evidence that could tip the scales, depending on the court's interpretation. Throughout the escalating drama, Reynolds stayed quietly observant. Known for his humor, business ventures, and public charm, he typically avoided professional disputes involving Lively. Yet, as the case unfolded, questions inevitably arose about his role and perspective in a battle that has captured Hollywood attention and left fans around the world eagerly waiting to see how it will end. How much longer could Ryan Reynolds remain neutral? Publicly, he continued to praise Blake Lively as a consummate professional, dedicated to authenticity, yet he carefully avoided specifics. Rumors began circulating that Reynolds had witnessed interactions and discussions that didn't fully align with Lively's claims. Early reports suggested he had a tense encounter with director Justin Baldoni before stepping back to observe the production more closely. For a time, the idea of Reynolds testifying against his wife seemed unimaginable. The couple's public persona had long been admired as unshakable. But as the legal drama escalated, whispers grew louder. Reynolds had been summoned to testify. Critics questioned the relevance of his perspective, given that he wasn't formally part of the production. Yet sources revealed that Lively had brought him into numerous script discussions and creative meetings, hoping his comedic instincts could strengthen her case. If Reynolds had indeed attended those sessions, his observations could either validate her claims or bolster Baldoni's defense, making his testimony pivotal. Hollywood watchers were glued to every move. Would Reynolds support his wife's narrative, or would he provide evidence that challenged it? Every conversation, every nuance, every piece of evidence now carried the potential to shift the entire courtroom battle. For Lively, a career built on charm, sophistication, and star power now hung by a thread. For Reynolds, the stakes were just as high. His reputation, business ventures, and carefully cultivated public persona could all be affected by what he revealed. This was no ordinary Hollywood scandal. It had become a complex, deeply personal legal battle with the power to redefine the careers of everyone involved. Even amid the tension, Reynolds recalled more ordinary moments. "I've got a long list," he said, laughing, and I was like, "Oh, really?" Because I just had one on mine. He remembered casting for a show that eventually got picked up and did very well. "I was one of 2 people, maybe," he admitted. "Then I got a call from my manager, my agent, and they were both on the line. Which means it's serious. Either you got the job or something's wrong." Then came the day Reynolds walked into the courtroom. Outside, chaos reigned. News vans lined the street. Photographers jostled for position, and camera flashes erupted like fireworks. Gone was his usual carefree charm, replaced by a solemn, focused expression that made it clear this was serious. Inside, an eerie silence fell as he took the stand. Hollywood's golden boy now stood at the center of a high-stakes legal showdown involving his wife and her director. Under oath, Reynolds clarified his limited role in the production. He emphasized that he had never been formally part of the creative team but confirmed that Lively had invited him to weigh in on comedic moments. During early discussions, he recalled how she had been enthusiastic about incorporating lighthearted scenes to balance the film's heavier themes. Reynolds admitted that he offered advice on comedic timing and even suggested a few ideas himself. Both he and Baldoni had initially agreed that humor could complement the heartfelt storyline, and at the time, no tension or disregard for Lively's input had caught his attention. A murmur ran through the courtroom as Reynolds admitted the struggle he faced in deciding to testify. He explained that a strong sense of moral responsibility compelled him to speak the truth, whether stemming from concerns about alleged evidence tampering or simply a commitment to honesty. He declined to elaborate further. Reynolds.com/measured testimony painted a subtle but powerful picture that contrasted with Lively's claims. Every eye was on him as he recounted the sessions, leaving the courtroom and observers wondering how his perspective might shift the legal battle. What struck everyone was his composed, serious tone, entirely absent of the playful wit that usually defines his public persona. As he navigated intense questioning, it became clear that Reynolds held immense respect for his wife's creativity, yet he could not ignore what he had seen and heard behind closed doors. His testimony, careful and deliberate, had the potential to reshape the case entirely, turning the courtroom drama into a tense, unpredictable showdown where every word could tip the scales. The atmosphere in the courtroom was electric. Everyone in the gallery understood the gravity of the moment. Here was a husband whose testimony could potentially unravel his wife's entire lawsuit. The focus quickly shifted to the new evidence, the digital anomalies uncovered by Justin Baldoni's forensic team. Reynolds was questioned about the emails Lively supposedly sent to Baldoni, vehemently opposing certain comedic choices and extravagant fashion elements. Reynolds' answers were measured. He acknowledged seeing some of the emails but insisted the tone wasn't nearly as hostile as Lively's lawsuit suggested. He even recalled light-hearted exchanges and jokes, indicating that the comedic angle had never been completely off the table. When pressed about irregularities, such as references to events that hadn't yet occurred, Reynolds admitted noticing some email threads appeared out of order. While he couldn't confirm whether this was a simple organizational error or something more concerning, he noted something unsettling. Certain messages Lively had shown him while preparing her complaint didn't match the versions in his own inbox. The courtroom stood at this revelation. Lively's attorneys objected, calling it speculation. But the judge allowed Reynolds to continue, reminding the jury that some of his recollections were subjective. During recess, gossip rippled through the hallways. Had Reynolds turned against his wife, or was he simply clarifying misunderstandings? Perhaps he felt a moral duty to reveal that Lively might have reshaped their comedic discussions, subtly shifting blame onto Baldoni. Whether Reynolds had direct evidence of tampering remained unclear, but the mention of mismatched emails suggested he suspected something was off. Lively sat tense and silent, avoiding eye contact as her legal team attempted to downplay Reynolds' testimony, arguing that as a non-formal member of the production, he had only seen fragments of the process. Yet no argument could diminish the weight of a husband with first-hand insight into her creative choices, now subtly challenging her core claim that Baldoni had forced comedic elements onto her. When court resumed, Lively's lawyers launched a pointed cross-examination, asking whether Reynolds had ever seen Baldoni dismiss or belittle her feedback. Reynolds paused, weighing his words carefully, and confirmed he had not witnessed outright disrespect. He acknowledged professional disagreements but emphasized that such disputes are normal on film sets. Questions then turned to private conversations, with lawyers probing whether Lively had expressed feeling pressured by Baldoni. Reynolds admitted she occasionally vented about production stress, but clarified she never accused Baldoni of undermining her. The cross-examination ended tensely. Lively's lead counsel suggested Reynolds might have personal motives, distancing himself from scandal or protecting future business deals with Disney, already aligned with Baldoni. Yet Reynolds remained calm, insisting his only goal was to ensure his recollections were on record. As proceedings wrapped, reactions in the courtroom ranged from shock to intrigue. What did this mean for the lawsuit? For their marriage? Hollywood gossip outlets immediately pounced. Reynolds' testimony appeared to contradict Lively's claims, supporting Baldoni's version of events more than hers. Fans struggled to reconcile the couple's once glamorous public image with his measured, honest account. Meanwhile, Baldoni, observing the testimony closely, expressed a measured sense of relief in a brief hallway interview. He emphasized that he took no satisfaction in the public marital tension but acknowledged that Reynolds' honesty strengthened his long-standing position. The comedic elements had not been forced on Lively, but had arisen through collaborative discussions with her participation. The courtroom drama underscored a stark reality. Even Hollywood's most polished couples can face a trial by fire when creative conflicts explode into legal battles. Reynolds' testimony wasn't just a moment of truth. It was a pivotal turning point that could reshape the narrative for Lively, Baldoni, and the entire film production. On that day, the stakes couldn't have been higher. Observers hoped that Reynolds' combination of first-hand insight and the new digital evidence would convince the court that Baldoni's defamation claim had merit, proving he wasn't the controlling figure Lively had made him out to be. Meanwhile, the media continued dissecting every angle, from the emails to Disney's role, as the saga captivated Hollywood and fans alike. Many speculated that the studio, which had thrown its full legal weight behind Justin Baldoni, was breathing a quiet sigh of relief after Ryan Reynolds' testimony. Given Reynolds' long-standing relationship with Disney, it seemed plausible the company appreciated his neutral or even subtly supportive stance toward Baldoni. Few believed he would risk his marriage for corporate interests. More likely, experts suggested, the evidence had genuinely shifted his perspective, leaving him little choice but to speak the truth once subpoenaed. In the days following his testimony, rumors about Lively and Reynolds' marriage exploded. Were they living apart? Was this the start of a deeper rift? Or had they quietly reached an understanding behind closed doors? Lively remained publicly silent, but sources revealed she was deeply shaken and disappointed that Reynolds had not fully aligned with her version of events. If she truly believed Baldoni had overshadowed her and manipulated her comedic contributions, his testimony could have felt like a betrayal. On the other hand, if the forensic evidence genuinely suggested some messages had been altered, Reynolds may have felt morally obligated to tell the truth, regardless of personal fallout. Legal experts noted that conflicting statements from a spouse added immense complexity to any case. Jurors often give extra weight to a partner's testimony, assuming that contradicting a loved one signals undeniable truth. Yet defenses also warned that personal motives could be at play. A spouse might challenge their partner in court for reasons beyond honesty, protecting their public image or shielding themselves from financial consequences. The next steps loomed large. Lively's legal team planned to present additional communications, arguing that when considered in context, all the evidence would show her contributions had been unfairly minimized. They emphasized that Reynolds had not witnessed every private interaction she had with Baldoni and therefore couldn't fully grasp the pressure she experienced. They also suggested that his statements might have been influenced by outside factors. Meanwhile, Baldoni's team felt more confident than ever. If someone as close to Lively as her husband admitted the comedic angle had mutual support, the foundation of a lawsuit could be on the verge of collapse. Disney's legal team prepared to show that Lively's version of events had shifted dramatically after fans criticized the comedic direction on social media. As details continued to emerge, whispers circulated online that Lively might have temporarily left the country, flustered by growing scrutiny. Whether she had truly fled or simply taken a short break to regroup remains unclear. Regardless, with Reynolds now on record in a way that did not fully support her claims, fans and industry observers alike questioned whether she would escalate her lawsuit or reconsider her strategy entirely. Would Lively shift focus to alleged miscommunications with Justin Baldoni beyond the comedic disagreements? Delving into broader creative or contractual disputes, she might argue that Reynolds, from his perspective, downplayed the seriousness of her concerns, either due to personal bias or a desire to maintain favor with Disney. For now, all of this remains speculation, but it underscores just how tangled the situation has become. All eyes are now on a single question. Is Reynolds' testimony the final nail in the coffin for Blake Lively's legal claims, or just one piece of a much larger puzzle? As the next court date approaches, the rumor mill is sure to churn, keeping Hollywood and fans glued to every development. For the once picture-perfect duo, the ground beneath them is uncertain. They are caught between personal loyalty and professional truth, navigating a scenario that could redefine their futures. The outcome of this case won't just determine their individual paths. It could also dictate the fate of a film adaptation that began with ambitious goals of telling a